This is the Moonlight Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Show. Our Moonlighter for today is the most popular gamer in the state of Iowa. His name is Nick Overton. Now, we've done gaming episodes on the podcast before. Of course, I went and played in the Tecmo Super Bowl tournament a couple of years back. At that tournament, I met some of the great Nintendo players of all time, guys with the all-time Duck Hunt and Zelda record. But Nick Overton is a next-generation gamer. If you've been following the gaming world at all, you know that there are guys out there that are making a ton of money in gaming, not only in tournaments or in the World Gaming Leagues, but also just every day by posting videos of themselves playing video games up to YouTube and live on their Twitch and streaming channels. And that is what Nick Overton does. He has been posting a video every day since 2008, I think, up to his YouTube channel where he is known affectionately as ImMarksman, and he has become one of the most prominent gamers in the gaming industry. But I'm interested in gaming a little bit because it's a world that I know nothing about. Literally, I used to play regular Nintendo NES with Tecmo Super Bowl and Mario 3 and, you know, some of those great games back when I was a kid, but we never really had Super Nintendo or PlayStation or any of that really much when I was growing up. I did get into the Halo craze a little bit while I was in high school and college, but I have not played video games essentially since that Tecmo Super Bowl tournament that I played in a couple of years ago. It's just a whole different world for me, but we're seeing the gaming world just blowing up right now to the point where you have professional sports teams owners that are investing heavily in gaming, esports, professional sports teams, and you have colleges, universities, junior colleges that are starting their own esports program and offering scholarships to esports gamers. And so I wanted to get Nick Overton on the podcast. This guy's really famous. Check out his YouTube channel, his Twitch channel. This guy has a huge following online. And so it was a big deal to get him here on the podcast to talk about this gaming world, to talk about, you know, all the things essentially that I don't understand. And so this was a lot of fun for me because I had a ton of questions about this new world. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode of the podcast. If you like what we're doing here on the Moonlight Show, make sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever it is that you get your podcast. And we would love it if you left us a 5-star review. You can also follow the show on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We love hearing from you guys each and every week. So here is our episode, today's episode with Moonlighter, Nick Overton, or as he is most affectionately known, ImMarksman.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I had a DMAC alumni, you know. I did a lot of speaking things there, and I'm friends with the provost of the West Campus, so always glad to do stuff with them.
So you're a DMAC alumni. I'm an Iowa Central alumni myself. I'm not sure if that rivalry really runs that deep. But what do you think about DMAC and a lot of colleges like bringing gaming into the collegiate fold now as like a collegiate sport?
Yeah, that's been like a pretty big effort for some years, is trying to form a collegiate gaming scene. The only problem with it is that there's just so many gray areas and there's just so many games. It's like, where do you start and where do you stop on, like, all right, we'll allow, you know, League of Legends or Fortnite, or we'll allow, you know, some people will consider online chess like a video game, you know, it's a real game as well. But at the same time, in the gray areas, you're looking at like, well, if they're taking a sponsorship or I guess sponsorship scholarship for gaming, can they make money outside of that scholarship? Because normally for college athletes you can't, right? Like you're limited from taking sponsorships or making money on like a streaming platform or something. But that's a major source of income for a lot of people, and especially in like the Fortnite scene. I mean, I know plenty of 15 or 16 year olds that Like, why would they want to take a scholarship to go to college for 10 grand if they made 200,000 last year in tournament winnings? And now
Right.
they can't play professionally anymore because they took that scholarship. It just wouldn't make sense for them. So it's growing, but it's in an area that's very difficult to navigate at the moment.
If DMAC had a gaming team back when you were in college, would you have been on the team?
Totally depends on the game. I'm great when it comes to shooting games, but I can also see how a school would not want to have any type of shooting game under them, right? So that's even been a problem for a couple schools with Fortnite scholarships. But yeah, I mean, I know a couple schools that do a lot of League of Legends related stuff. I do not play League, so I would just be totally useless. But if there was some shooting games out there, for sure, I would try.
Yeah. So what was the game that really got you into professional gaming? Was it Call of Duty or was it Halo or one of these first shooter games?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on how you want to look at that. As far as like tournaments go and playing in tournaments, it was Halo years and years ago, and I played in some tournaments, and I was decent.
And what year was that? Because I played Halo like back in 2004, and we linked the systems up. It wasn't online. We do system linked with like 8 guys or 12 guys or 16 guys. You're not that much younger than I am. So when did you get into like a Halo?
Yeah, I mean, I played Halo when it first came out, Combat Evolved, which was 2002 at the time, I think 2001. Halo 2, I think, is maybe what you're considering at 2005, 4-ish.
Yeah.
And that was an MLG scene, pretty popular. I played there's Halo 3 and then Halo Reach. Halo 3 and Halo 2 are really popular in competitive shooters, for console at least. And I played in Halo Reach, and that was the first tournament. I still played the other Halo games, but I didn't play competitively. I was too young. So my first Major League Gaming, which was MLG tournaments, were in Halo Reach in 2010 and 2011. But that kind of got me into it. And then I went to Call of Duty and started doing like content creation stuff, which some might still consider professional gaming, so I would make money from it. And I didn't make a living from it for a while. But and then when Fortnite came out, I started playing Fortnite competitively and got signed to a team for that and played that professionally for a year and a half until I was kind of just fed up with the game. And you can't really stay good at something you don't enjoy, right? So I was like, I'll just continue making content and try to have some fun with where I can, but I don't want to continue playing pro.
Yeah, it seems like the gaming community, people are making a living both ways, right? They're making a living like in that competition arena where they're playing, they got a team, they're playing in Fortnite tournaments or whatever, League of Legends type tournaments. And then guys on YouTube like yourself, and some of them do both, but you're more of an entertainer. Like I've watched a bunch of your videos, and it's not just that you're good at games, but you're also an entertainer. And that's why people will want to watch you, right?
Yeah. That's one of the. It helps to be very good and to be entertaining, but it's very few people can do that, including myself. I try to bring good gameplay where it's like they can watch something and learn something and get better, but I also try to do things that are entertaining and fun to watch. So I won't always use the best stuff or do the most optimal routes or whatever I'm doing. I'm trying to do interesting, dumb things that they might not see from other people, because in the end, you could totally suck at every game. And it's fine. As long as you're very entertaining, people will want to watch that. So that is the priority typically for YouTube and streaming.
Yeah, because you got like 1.4 million followers on YouTube right now. It's incredible the following that you've built. So take me back to when you first started playing Halo. You played in a couple of tournaments. When did the light click on for you that's like, hey, let's try to monetize this. Let's try to like make this something that I do for a living?
Oh man, that would be so many years later.
Really?
Many years. Yeah, I never considered it a job for a long time. I would say I've uploaded a video every day on YouTube since August 21st, 2012.
Holy cow.
But I did it because I liked to, and I wanted to grow my YouTube channel. I didn't make much money from it. I mean, I have thousands of hours of gameplay on YouTube, and I probably only made $1,000. You're making a dollar an hour at most for a majority of that time period. Recently, I would say, is more of the time where, like the last 3 years, 4 years, maybe half the time total now that I've been uploading videos, it's been more of a career choice and more of like a full-time thing that I could do. I went to college. I have a bachelor's from the University of Iowa. And while I was doing that, I was working for a streaming platform called Justin TV or Twitch TV now, which is where I stream. But it was like, do the streaming and the YouTube stuff as a hobby, and I'll continue working on my degree and my education and working at these companies to try to gain experience in the industry. I had no set goal of like, once I'm finished with this degree, I'll just quit everything and do my own thing. Right. It was more of just like, hey, you're there, you're doing it, and you're lucky enough to be able to post things that people enjoy to the extent where you're able to do it full time.
What was the first video that you did that kind of went viral or popped for you that kind of raised your eyebrow to think, oh, I might have a decent following here?
God, I wish I could tell you, but the problem with YouTube is that so many videos that do really well are videos you wish didn't do well. You're like, why? You could spend 15 hours editing a video. Like I have montages that took 6 months to make, and they have horrible views. Like people don't care at all. Like you get maybe like 80K views on a 6 month project of collecting clips and then having like a month-long editing process and getting song rights and stuff like that. And then you could upload one stupid video that you have like some nice title and thumbnail, and that would get 1 million views in the course of 2 months or a month. It's so random with YouTube. I even had a video I uploaded in Modern Warfare 2, which is like 7 years ago at this point. The video had 800K views up until last year. And then last year, YouTube's algorithm just was like, all right, now we want people to watch this. And the video gains 2 million views in a year, 6 years after it was uploaded.
Wow.
It was like, what? Why now? Why did it like? It's so random sometimes. Yeah, I wish everyone had the answer, but most of YouTube nowadays is title and thumbnail, and hopefully you have an idea that people are really interested in as well, right? Like if you have a very specific thing in mind that you think would catch people's eye, and you have a great designer and you have a great kind of snazzy title for it, that will do well. It's just how YouTube works now.
Do you have a team that you're working with that's helping you out with the editing and with the thumbnails and the music and putting that all together? Or are you doing that as well?
I do most of the editing myself because it's just quick editing, hour to 2 hours. All of my thumbnails are done by a guy named Brody. He lives in the United Kingdom. I work with him on a daily basis, and I have for about 5 years. He's a great guy, very good designer. And if there's anything that takes extensive editing, I do have editors I reach out to. If there's something that's 10 plus hours of editing and I need them to work on it while I'm doing other stuff, I'll reach out to them and outsource it.
So I feel like gaming today is completely different than like gaming back in the 80s or back in the 90s, like the Nintendo NES era. Whereas like in sports, you can look back on a different era or 100 years ago and you can compare like Babe Ruth stats with Barry Bonds stats with Mike Trout. Whereas in gaming, it's like Super Mario and Tecmo Super Bowl in 1991 look nothing like Madden or, and Zelda back in the NES days looks nothing like Zelda now, except for the character might be the same. So do any of those old school games, whether it's arcade games or NES games, does that connect with you at all?
Oh, yeah. I mean, some games hold up the test of time completely, right? They still do the Tetris World Championships every year.
Yeah,
Tetris
but do you
is
go?
super basic.
Do you carry that?
I watch some of those. Yeah, I watch some of those. I watch a lot of them. I mean, especially for my generation right now, and I think probably the gaming generation, one of the biggest games that kind of holds up that still looks similar from when it was first made, which doesn't seem that old at this point, but is Pokemon on like the handhelds. Those are some of like the most recent popular games that kind of look relatively similar to when they first came out on like the Game Boy. And then now, you update the Game Boy 3 or 4 times like Nintendo did, but it's changed a little bit, but it's still wildly successful and very popular. Other stuff, you're looking at super old consoles that the technology has changed so drastically over the time. We're not playing Duck Hunt anymore.
Right.
It's yeah. I mean, and I guess the focus for a lot of studios nowadays is graphics and, how realistic can we make stuff look, where a lot of gamers don't. I mean, they want good graphics, but they don't really care all that much. Gameplay is usually better than graphics, right? You want the thing to be fun rather than look fun and then play horribly.
Yeah, like for your videos or for what you're doing, have you ever gone back and done one of those playing a retro game? Or does that connect with your audience at all?
My audience would not watch a lot of that stuff. I have done it on stream.
Okay.
I have not done it for YouTube. YouTube is more of the edited stuff, and I usually kind of stay in line with the shooting game genre because that's what they all followed for. But on stream, I usually have a bit more freedom to do what I feel like, and so I play a lot larger variety of stuff on stream, including older games on older consoles.
I did an episode on my podcast about Tecmo Super Bowl, the greatest football game ever created for NES. And at the tournament that I was playing at had like all of the NES record holders were there, like the Duck Hunt guy, the Centipede guy, like they were all there. I mean, like everybody, they're from Iowa, and a lot of them are because of that Twin Galaxies in Iowa and all that stuff. Do you ever go down to Twin Galaxies? Like, does that mean anything to this generation of gamers?
I have been there, but I don't go there very often. I like the arcade style games, and I like old school games in general. But I only go as far back as like, the Super Nintendo,
right,
and like the Dreamcast. So even the NES, it's like stuff I can relate with, but it's like the earliest of gaming for me.
Is there a game, does like Zelda or Mario Kart do those old iterations that might have been on GameCube or N64? Does any of that stuff translate now?
Oh yeah, no, it's the Mario Kart. I've done Mario Kart on stream, the new Mario Kart.
Yeah,
people love Mario Kart still. Very popular game, especially playing with friends and just constantly messing with them. And I think a lot of those games are wildly popular for people that do more along the lines of like variety and focus on the entertainment side of content creation more so on the skill side. It's hard. Those games are made like party games, it's made to like just be able to play with friends and a group of buddies or whatever. It's hard to upload videos of being like a really competitive Mario Kart player, right? So I have some fun with friends on it here and there, but it's not a game I can just go on and stomp on people and people are like, yeah, good job. It's like, wow, you're kind of a jerk. you're just beating on 12-year-old kids in Mario Kart. It's like, yeah, okay.
Speaking of that, like when you're doing the live stuff or when when people are commenting on your gameplay, like how hard is it not to just flip out on some 12-year-old kid that's just like trying to get in your ear?
All the time. I yell at people all the time. I don't know if it's because my patience has gone down in 10 years of doing this, or if they're actually as annoying as I feel like they are. But yeah, I yell at people all the time. Usually they deserve it. Sometimes they don't. I'm like, all right, my bad. You caught me a bad time. You're the 44th person to ask me that question in an hour. Okay. It's like, it gets old.
Is that part of the shtick too? Like, is that why people tune into you? Because, if somebody starts mouthing off, you'll put them in their place.
Oh, I'm sure they love when I shit talk.
Yeah.
They enjoy that. I think that's part of any sport though. Like I like watching clips of, MMA fighters shit talking each other or basketball players on the court when they have them mic'd and stuff. It's hilarious to listen to.
Is there any concern with you for like the amount of screen time that you have? Like you're essentially staring at a screen for, I don't know how many hours a day, but a lot of hours a day. And there's all this information now about we spend too much time on our phones. We spend too much time with these bright lights and all this stuff. Is that a concern for you at all?
My eyes hurt once in a while, but not very often. That's probably I've done it for so long that you're probably used to it. When I look at a screen, I have the normal prescription type stuff as well, where it's like anti-glare, anti-blue light, everything. I have no clues if it actually helps, but they say it does, right? So I'll trust them. It's not healthy. There's no reason to think that it would be, but I'm doing okay so far. And if at any point I need to retire, it's like, at least I have a good excuse. Like, hey, look, I worked too much, guys. I got to stop.
What about the burden of just the amount of content that you're putting out, right? You're kind of I'm this way with the podcast sometimes too. Sometimes it feels like we're a slave to the content that we have to be putting out. The audience is expecting a new video in an hour, a new podcast on Tuesday morning, all of that stuff. Like, how much does that weigh on you? If you've put out a video every day for 8 years now, like how much does that weigh on you every day?
That's probably the biggest challenge for most creators is trying to continually find content that will be interesting. That's not the same thing. And you can do it. It helps if you're doing different games. If you're doing the same game over and over, that's got to be real difficult. Call of Duty does change where I can play a different Call of Duty every year. I can do, different weapons in those Call of Duties. I can do different attachments on those weapons and different maps and things. So I do have a decent diversity. A lot of that stuff, even though it seems like there's an excess of content in some ways, it isn't interesting enough to warrant doing content over. Like I can't just upload a video on every map in the game. People really don't care about what map I'm playing. They don't. Now the weapons, if I can do something interesting with weapons, then I can counter certain metas. They'll enjoy that. But yeah, the maps is like I just out the window. Can't do something like that. But yeah, it's the biggest challenge is trying to think of content or think of a focus for the video that you want to do that is going to be interesting enough that people want to watch and is something that is within the realm of possible. Because some things you want to do that are like just grade A impossible to do. You cannot pull it off. It would take hundreds of hours of time, and you can't dedicate that to one video.
Right.
Especially if you're uploading daily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are your hours like every day? I know you had mentioned to me while we we're trying to set this up that a lot of your streaming happens at night. So like what's a typical day in your world?
Typically, I try to work in between like 2 to 10, 2 and 11. And then I'm usually awake till like 3 a.m. But I would get up, early afternoon or just before noon, and I would get some maybe emails done or do some non-work related stuff, send out mail, whatever. And then by 2, I'm usually on the computer. And at that point, I'm either trying to record some stuff or I'm trying to plan out what I need to record. I might send my designer the info so he can start working on stuff for that night to get a thumbnail ready. By 5 o'clock, I want to try to stream usually. So I'm streaming by 5. I stream from like 5 to 9, 5 to 10. After that, I'll go edit from 9 to 11 or 10 to 11 or 10 to midnight. And I'll hopefully get a video done by like in between 10 to midnight.
Do you dream about the games? Like in your dreams?
Not in a long time.
In the world?
Not in a long time. I when I was younger, I swear in my sleep I could hear the Halo theme song. Where it's just like the but not in a while.
Yeah. So like right now, do you have any big competitions coming up or like what's your competitive side of things look like right now for Nick Overton?
Literally nothing at the moment, all because of COVID. Nothing, everything has been canceled for a while, even just regular conventions. I don't even know when the next actual event of any kind is going to be, let alone a tournament. Right now, everyone's in limbo. I mean, all the events are online. Like, I mean, BlizzCon online just happened, which is Blizzard, Activision's big thing. They showed off, a bunch of the new Blizzard and World of Warcraft stuff, like WoW and Diablo and Overwatch, Hearthstone, all the games that Blizzard works on. And it was literally just all online. It was like a show they put on. And that's supposed to be an in-person event, and it's a very big deal. And all the PAXs were canceled, and E3 was canceled, and it's online as well. So, I mean, right now, everyone's just waiting. Nothing we can really do.
So there's no like online tournaments that are going on where they bring in a lot of the big names like yourself and there's prize money out there. There's nothing like that going on.
Oh, there are online ones for sure. Yeah. Just not in person. Yeah. I mean, there's online Twitch Rivals tournaments pretty often. It depends. The thing about COD right now is a lot of the tournaments are Warzone related, which is their battle royale. And I really don't play it that much. I played a little bit and I got, 100 some wins and I kind of got bored. So whenever I get invites for that stuff, I usually just pass. I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to play it that much. And my fans don't really like it all that much. They like it enough, but there's tons of other guys that play Warzone every single day and they're great players at it. And so typically they would just go watch those guys. If they want to watch what I do usually, which is search and destroy and multiplayer or multiplayer in general, then they'll come watch me. But I usually stay there just because I enjoy that game mode the most.
Is Ninja still the biggest name in gaming?
He's still big. I don't really know what Tyler's been up to nowadays as much. He's been doing a lot of Valorant from when I go and check out his stream. He does some Fortnite. There's a lot of big people in the streaming and YouTube scene, honestly. I mean, PewDiePie is technically still one of the biggest probably gamer in the world that people know from YouTube. Right. But I mean, in terms of streamers, I couldn't even guess who has the highest average viewership. I never look at that stuff. Most of us wouldn't. We don't really care. We're kind of just playing. And
Doing your own thing.
Yeah, you just do your own thing and try to make it as fun as possible for yourself while you do it.
Do you consider yourself a gamer, a streamer, a Twitcher, a content creator? Like, what do you consider your profession?
I usually just say content creator.
Yeah.
Because if anyone asks and I say online entertainer, they think it's porn related. And I'm like, no, it's not, I assure you. So I just say content creator, and they're like, oh, like, well, what kind of content do you create? And it's like, oh, video game stuff. And like, oh yeah, my son or daughter watches that. And they're usually thinking of Minecraft, and that's fine. I like Minecraft too. But yeah, I just say content creator. It sums everything up.
Right. So Nick, the way we end every episode of the Moonlight Graham show is with the 5 big questions. All right.
Okay.
So first question is, what's the greatest video game of all time?
Greatest. That'd be so hard. God, if I'm picking one,
Got to pick one.
I don't even like it that much, but I would have to say Mario 64.
Ooh.
And that was an N64 game, and it was the first time Mario went 3D. And Mario is just such an iconic guy, and everybody knows him. Personally, for me, it'd be more of like a shooting game, but I think Mario kind of set the scene for gaming a lot better than Halo did or something like that, right? So I would say Mario 64. The first time he went 3D was a big deal for gaming changing to what you kind of see today, where it's more realistic and ideal versus a 2D side screen scroller, So
to me, it seems like Halo, and then World of Warcraft, and then
that was a big one too.
What was the other? What was the one? You've said it a couple of times, just from like 3-4 years ago. That was big.
League of Legends.
No, it starts with an F, I think.
Fortnite.
Like, it seems like those were the 3 that really changed things. Did everything just explode with Fortnite, or why was that such a big deal?
Fortnite blew up a lot because it was a fun game to play. It was really easy to play. It was free to play. It was cross-platform on every platform, your cell phone, Xbox, PlayStation, or PC, and you could play with any of your friends across all of them. And they also did things like an interactive map that changed throughout seasons with a storyline. And they did, huge in-game events across all their servers for all their players at one given time. I don't play much Fortnite nowadays, but they are unquestionably one of the bar standards, like they set the bar for a lot of stuff now. Ever since they did cross-platform, Call of Duty's now cross-platform on everything, which is great. I that way overdue, disgustingly overdue. It's sad that it took them having to show other people like, hey, look, this is what people want, when everyone said they wanted it anyway, and those companies just refused to work together.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, they set the bar for a lot of things, and that's why they're, such a large, innovative game, even in this day, versus how games changed from 2D to 3D, from side scroller to open world.
Right.
They're the latest when it comes to innovative gaming.
Who's been your role model?
Gosh, for YouTube early on, and even up to this point, it would have been like it would have been, I guess, I watched a little bit of PewDiePie, but it was mostly, I guess, Hutch and CNanners. Mm-hmm. Those guys were Call of Duty guys and shooting game players, and they uploaded videos very early on, and it was mostly multiplayer related, which is what I played and watched and was interested in. And it was mostly the competitive side of me that was like, man, I could beat those guys. I should do that, And after years, you find out no one cares if you could beat them. It's mostly about, can you make something fun to watch? But yeah, I was watching those guys and seeing them create content around shooting games that was like, oh, I should try that.
What's the longest gaming run you've been on?
Like one time, or for like
at one time?
Elaborate.
Like one sit down.
Okay.
I've been playing for X amount of hours in a row.
Probably not as long as you might think. Some people can do it crazy time. I would say 15 hours is probably the most I've ever been able to do. Some guys can do 24-hour streams. I cannot do that crap. It's no way. But 15 hours is still a long time. So I can do. I've done 15. I would say the average is probably 5 on any given day. I play for 5 or 6 straight.
What's your caffeine of choice during the run?
Right now, it's like literally just Game Fuel. I'm sponsored by Mountain Dew, so I have Game Fuel next to me because I woke up a little bit ago. Game Fuel, Bang, freaking. I've had Monster in the past, Red Bull in the past.
Yeah.
It's not good. I know sometimes I can just quit it and go to straight water, but if I stop after a while of drinking it, man, it takes like 2 weeks to like stop feeling tired. You really have to get it out of your system entirely.
Right. Who's your biggest rival?
I don't really have one. I really don't. I mean, I don't look at anybody as a rival in terms of like, oh, I got to beat that person. I guess I don't really look at that stuff. I don't look at other people's stats. I don't care, I guess. For a while, there wasn't anyone like myself that would upload search and destroy content. Nowadays, there's probably 8 to 9 other people I can think of, quickly that have been doing it for a little bit and have gained traction doing it. But I still don't consider anybody a rival for it. I've done it for so long. I'm too old to like in the industry to have a rival at this point. All these guys are newer guys and they could get bigger than me for sure on YouTube or streaming. It still wouldn't be a rival thing. It's kind of like old school versus new school. It's cool to see other people play it and, try to hopefully build more of a community for the game in the game mode rather than just myself.
Yeah. Are you still going to be doing this at 40?
God, I don't know. I'm almost 30. I'll play as long as I want, I guess. Maybe as I get older and I slow down, I'll pick up a game that's better for older people, right?
Right. There you go.
Start playing card games or something.
So final question here, Nick, is what's the best advice you've ever received?
Upload videos that you would want to watch yourself.
Ooh.
If you don't want to watch the video you're uploading, that's most likely other people don't want to watch it either. So
I like that.
That's a good way to look at like, what kind of content you should focus on and what should be the focus of the video. It has to be something that you yourself would be like, oh yeah, I wonder, and click on that versus like, just throw anything together that might seem like, oh, I haven't done this before. It's like, just because you haven't done it doesn't mean it's interesting. You want to try to keep it interesting for the viewers, but also try to keep it fresh and something different than what you've done in the past.
Cool. Well, I appreciate it, man. I am Marksman. You are the man. I've watched a ton of your videos, and it's fun to follow you and see the type of content you're putting out there because it's awesome. So keep up the good work. Thank you for coming on the Moonlight Graham Show. Really appreciate meeting you virtually here, Nick.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey guys, thanks once again to listening to today's episode of the Moonlight Graham Show. And even though I do most of the interviews here on the podcast, there is a ton of work that happens behind the scenes that you guys don't see that make each episode possible. So I got to give a shout out to the Moonlight Graham Show team. First of all, Brian Sandvig, our producer. Brian does all of the post-production work, and in real life, he's not just a podcast producer, he's also a real estate agent. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home down in the Kansas or Missouri areas, give Brian Sandvig a call. Next guy on that list is Brendan Gargano. Brendan does all of our design and artwork here on the podcast. He's one of the most talented artists I've ever met, and I love all of his work. If you need any help on the design side with logos or anything like that, give Brendan Gargano a call. The next guy on that list is Andy Flattery, my older brother. Andy, of course, has done some of the interviews here on the podcast. He also is a certified financial planner. He owns a business called Simple Wealth Planning. If you need any help in that area, check Andy Flattery out. And then, of course, the trusty co-host Tom Griffin and my younger brother Neil Flattery. Those guys are just busy being husbands, being fathers, they're family men, but also they do a ton of work here on the show. So thanks again for listening. We really appreciate you guys subscribing and supporting the Moonlight Graham Show.